And welcome back to Reach Out TV. We haven't seen you guys for a while. Thanks for tuning back in. And Steve, thanks for coming back again. It's always great to talk with you.
Oh, it's a privilege.
Steve, I'm going to get straight into it. There's a lot of people that are starting to talk about, what's going on at the moment, like with the times and
You mean in the world?
Yeah, in the world.
Okay.
They're saying that, there might be a reset. That word's being thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
There's all the lingering little end bits of this virus, and there's world events and different things happening. People are linking it to end times and all sorts of things. But we just thought we'd ask you your thoughts, crossing over on a biblical base, what your thoughts are and what you can sort of tell us.
Okay, well, I like when you say a biblical base, because I like to put everything on a biblical base.
Yes.
Because I believe God's got the future from Genesis to Revelation, all the way through. And many now who a few years ago wouldn't have agreed with this statement, we are in the end times. We are that generation that will see all things come to pass and the return of Jesus Christ. And it is a wake-up call, because if we are so close, I think we ought to get our lives right if it's necessary. And when I say get your life right, we'll never be perfect, but there are many people that sort of, well, God's there, but they're not really committed to God. And we need a commitment. People need to become born again of the Spirit of God. I just go from, read John chapter 3. Jesus said very clearly, there's only one way to heaven, through him, no other way. That means every other religion's false then. Well, I believe that's true.
Yes.
There's only one. One way, and it's Jesus.
He's
That's it. You're right. Now, when we look at the TV every morning, see the news, we see what's happening in America. The nation seems to be divided. We see what's happening on their borders now. It's terrible. Fancy sending children as young as 5 and 6 years of age across the border without parents. What the heck is going to happen to those kids, that's a big problem America's got to face. Now, President Biden, he's the one that's done this. But it seems to be backfiring in the sense, I don't think all Americans will like it, because this is a major upheaval. And can they take thousands and thousands every day coming over the border, especially as their summer period comes around? I don't know. That's America's problem.
We love America here and have supported them greatly. But does it say in the Bible, what does it say about America in the Bible? Does it say they're going to be a superpower anymore, or what's...
Well, we're Australia, but...
But we always watch what's happening, because it seems
whatever they do, we're involved. We've always been involved with America. And they've been on our side ever since that Second World War. We know that. Look what they did, Battle of the Coral Sea, all those things. America saved our butt here. There's no doubt about that. They helped us. But we did our part too. But they had the numbers, they had the military might, and machinery. And they still have. And praise God for that. But the politics and everything today seems to be changing around. Now, the Bible warns us that there is a new empire coming. The Antichrist system.
Yes.
And I think what's happening in the world today, there's a shaking going on in many ways. Financially, people are worried. Now, people today are buying silver, gold if they can afford to. Why are they doing that? Why is there an urgency? Is there something going to happen with the currency?
We used to do in the past, isn't it? Everything was backed by that.
Yeah, it looks like people are beginning to say, hey, how's our currency going to last now? Will it last? What's going to happen? Is there a change coming? Well, there is according to the Bible eventually, but how far away that is, well, we don't know exactly, but we're getting very, very close. Now,
you were saying to me earlier, in one of our earlier takes that we had to abandon, but you were talking about Israel and the fig tree. Can you go over that again for me?
Well, Israel is represented by the fig tree. And America's been a very close ally to Israel. There is no doubt about it. And when the last president was there, Trump, he helped make peace with those nations, certain nations around Israel, that for the first time have made a peace pact with Israel. And and now the capital is in Jerusalem. America's moved its embassy there. Others are wanting to move their embassy there. So there's been a big change there. But suddenly, the doorposts have changed. Call them the goalposts, if you like.
Yeah.
And now, what will the president of America do now? Is he for Israel? It didn't seem, the other one was too much, not Trump, but the one before him.
Previous, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to go in name calling, but the thing is, the facts are that it wasn't really good. They didn't have a lot to do with Israel. And so, okay, there's different politics at different times. But as Christians, we should be devout towards Israel because Jesus Christ is coming to rule and reign from there, whether we like it or not.
That's great.
And, I noticed when I was a young guy growing up, long before I was a Christian, that there was a sort of an
like Semitic Israeli
against
sort of
Israel,
feel,
the Jewish people. And I never was that way. In the early days in the pool rooms, there's some Jewish guys who come in.
Little factions or people that do that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know that's not correct. But
I'm also found with the Jewish kids, young teenage ones. They'd stick together, obviously. Yeah. But, they'd be in a pool room. I was always friendly with them. And one day I remember there was three of them. They said, "We won't be seeing you soon, Steve." "Why is that?" "Oh, we're going back to Israel."
Yeah, right.
I remember saying, "What for?" "Oh, you'd never understand." I understand now. It was that calling, because God's been calling them back from all the nations of the world.
Yes.
And, I find out, because I've traveled the world a lot. I've been in 87 different nations preaching the gospel. But in Europe, I saw an anti-Semitism rising in the last few years like never before.
Yes.
And, there's the Muslims, of course. They're totally opposed to the Jewish thing.
Yeah.
And they're strong in Europe now, the Muslims, and England.
So
too.
for someone that mightn't realise, Israel wasn't even a nation. It got born in a day in, was it 1948?
Yeah, May 1948.
Yeah. And what's the prophecy around that, or?
Well, it said that when Jesus returns, that generation that saw the restoration of Israel, where they got their nationalhood back again in Israel as their land, that generation then living would not all pass away until Jesus returns or comes back for, some believe, the rapture of the church or the end of the tribulation period. I believe there's two coming backs here.
Yes.
I believe in a pre-rapture, a taking out of the true believers. And and there's a big percentage of believers believe that same way.
Yes.
Now, there's lots of views you can get on end times.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to throw it down somebody's throat.
Yeah.
I personally believe that it's very possible we will leave here with a shout from Jesus to come up here.
Well, there's many scriptures that point to that, isn't
there's
there?
scriptures that point that way too.
Yeah.
Some believe it might be halfway through tribulation. But when I read the Bible and tribulation, people by the thousands get killed in the tribulation.
It's terrible, isn't it? Yeah.
Now, I believe what God said in His Word. We are not appointed unto wrath.
So
wrath is a punishment to come upon this wicked earth.
So do you think these times could be literally walking into that? You're saying that the generation, like that's coming to an end now,
Yes,
that Israeli generation. So that means that those end times are like at our door, basically.
Well, some people don't like me saying this, but I'll say it.
Yeah.
I take it with a 7. God took 7 days.
Yep.
And He rested on the 7th. Okay? One day can be like 1,000 years. Now, let's look at it and take the 1,000 years. From the time of Adam and Eve, when they were expelled from the Garden of Eden.
So they've left?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was 2,000 years of innocence. Then the Jewish religion came. So there was 2,000 years then of the Jewish religion, all right? Where the law was given. And through the scriptures we could see that no man could ever live the law, no matter how hard they try. Now, when they pressed into God, God blessed them. When they did things that were wrong, they were cursed. And all kinds of problems arose. But then finally, Jesus came as the Messiah. He was Jewish, born in Israel, in Bethlehem, as we know. But He didn't start His ministry till He was 30 years of age, okay? And it was to last 3 years. Now, what happened was, when He finished His ministry, He was crucified. on that cross. And he said, "It is finished." They were the last words, "It is finished." And he didn't just say, "It is finished." He shouted that out, loud voice.
A dying man.
Can't do that. And remember, people don't think about that. And the darkness came. And at that very moment, when we read the scriptures, it tells us that darkness was over that part of the world anyhow.
Yes.
Okay? And when the light came on, the Roman centurion, looking at him on the cross, he turned away. He couldn't look. It just, the picture of Jesus we could never understand. He took the curse of sin, sickness, poverty, the whole lot on that cross. He's made a curse for us so we could, by faith, obtain the blessings of God and live in a better way. But by faith now, not just automatically living that, it's by faith.
So he took that. For someone that maybe hasn't heard this, understood this, so he took all of that
sin on himself,
so we were living under
the curse.
That. Yes.
We call it old curse.
Yes.
Yeah, and he took that and he paid the price. You see, because of sin, somebody had to pay a price. Well, who could pay the price? No one after Adam and Eve were born perfect. See? So there was nobody that was perfect.
Yes.
That's why Jesus came. He laid aside his divinity, but he didn't have a human father. It was through the Spirit of God that he conceived in Mary's womb, the virgin. So if we did all the mathematics and the medical history of everything, how a birth is and that, he'd be different to us. But he was born as a human being.
Yeah.
He laid aside his divinity.
Amazing.
So he was perfect. Now, he couldn't sin unless he chose to. Now, that's hard for us to understand because we can just sin without realizing it. He was perfect. He paid the price.
So he would have had all the normal fleshly temptations, but he had a...
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
He did it. He fulfilled it.
Yes.
Somebody had to, and only he could. That's why the Godhead was laid aside. He was God.
Yes.
But he became man.
Yeah, right.
But he was anointed by the Holy Spirit in his ministry like we can be, all right, to do the things of God, whatever the calling of God is on your life. And he perfected it without any shadow of doubt. So he died in AD 30. AD 30. And he was 33 years of age.
Okay, yep.
Okay? Now, the church age then began. He said, "It is finished." Now, 50 days into the New Testament, Pentecost.
Yes.
That's when the church was born in Jerusalem. Remember, there's 120 people in the upper room praying.
Yep.
And then the Holy Spirit came down upon them like tongues of fire.
Yep.
They came downstairs. The Spirit of God drew 3,000 Jews that were in Jerusalem for the festivals. And they heard everybody speaking in their own language. They were speaking in tongues. They were hearing pure languages that these Galileans would never have spoken. Okay?
Amazing.
Yeah, it is. And they were converted.
Yes.
Because Peter made it very clear, this is not what you think. But he explained out what God was doing.
We're not drunk.
Yeah, that's right. Because it was a feast day.
Yeah.
And you don't do or get drunk on feast days.
Yes.
Anyhow, so that's how the church started. Now, this is the thing. If there's 2,000 years of grace, innocence, 2,000 years of the Jewish religion, when Jesus said it's finished, it's finished.
Yep.
That was exactly 2,000 years. And I believe, and many scholars believe the same thing, the church was given 2,000 years.
Yeah.
Well, if we took the church age from 2030 and add on the 2,000 years, what does that come to?
That would be 30.
2030.
Yeah.
So, what do we do with the 7 years of tribulation? If there's 7 years of tribulation, then we take the 7 years off. And what does that bring you to?
Oh, we're back here.
3.
Yeah, we're nearly there.
23.
Yeah.
All right. So, if it's 2023,
We're already in 21.
yes, well into it now.
Yeah.
All right. Now, the one thing I can tell you, if you follow the scriptures correctly, you will see that the church rapture, if the rapture is what's going to happen to the true believers, all right, because he said you're not here to suffer the wrath, and there's lots of scriptures back that up, but it'd take too long just to go into that right now.
Yeah.
But you take off from the 7 years, we're back to 23, as you said, we're almost there.
Yeah.
Now, when does the rapture take place? It takes place before tribulation. Now, does it go one day before? I don't think so. Now, there's going to be a war one day where it says Russia and certain Muslim nations will come against Israel. Now, if America sort of backs off and just is concerned with their problems in America, they've been the world policeman for a long time and done a good job, all right? But you can see there's a decline coming worldwide.
Yes.
And there's also a move for one world government. Now, I'll touch on that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But we can see we haven't got long to go. Because before that war with Russia, where they get destroyed in one day, I won't go into all that right now, but they only last one day, and God supernaturally intervenes for Israel. Once more, Israel gets saved. And Israel will always be saved. They'll pay a price, because this Antichrist comes later, who causes havoc and builds a temple there and everything. And 1/3 of the Jewish people get killed. 2/3 survive and come through and believe in Jesus at the end. But they pay a shocking price. But there it is. Now, with that in mind, we have to go before that Russian war starts. So that Russian war...
That's the one they call the Ezekiel war, isn't it?
Yeah,
from the
Ezekiel,
Ezekiel
38, 39.
Yes,
yeah. And the Magog war.
Yeah.
With their allies. Now, all those ones named in the Bible, if you read it in Ezekiel, they're all named.
Yes.
Well, they're all the ones lining up with Russia right now.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
And it's never been a time
It's like
where
you put the headlines in the newspaper today, nobody'd be surprised.
They're all there. It's all
they're
happening.
there right now. Yeah. So that takes place, but we have to be raptured before that. So
and there's no definite time. It doesn't say, oh, it'll be on this day or that day.
No, it just tells you the season when it's coming.
Yeah, right.
It does actually, they take 7 weeks cleaning up the bodies alone.
Wow.
Because 5/6 of all those nations jointly together are destroyed. Only 1/6 of all those nations represented, 1/6 all together, go back to their homelands.
Wow.
So it's a big, massive destruction. Okay? And Israel escapes at that time.
Yeah.
But look, the rapture could happen any time now. We don't know the day, we don't know the hour. We know the season. Now, as we look at things on a world scale right now, what I say to you is this. I believe with all my heart that we're heading so fast towards the one world government. And I believe the reason America seems to be going one way, because some of their people are not godly people. There's more godly people in America than any of our Western nations. We know that. So we're not trying to put things down. We've got people here who believe, but it's only a small percentage of the nation itself.
Yes.
And that's how the world is.
Yes.
It's a choice to believe or not.
It says that too, that it will be like that at the end, doesn't it?
So we've got to believe for God to touch our nation too.
Yes.
But I think what's happening with everything, there's going to be a crisis financially. It's so obvious. Now, that maybe bring us back to earth a little bit in this nation. I hope it does.
So we don't know if it's brought on by natural means or if it's a controlled thing. Or
it could be. Well, we see through this virus
Yes.
how it's corrupted the money system. And it
But
seems
it does
like...
all seem to be pointing us all in one direction.
Yeah.
Everything seems
the
to
whole
be...
world.
Yes, yes.
And...
well, I've never known the whole world to be involved in something before.
well, have you ever heard of a virus closing the whole
not
world
not
down?
The whole world. Yeah.
And there's been deadly viruses in the past, but
Yes.
it didn't stop whatever you did to survive.
Yes,
And, well, we have been in lockdown, and but do we have to live in lockdown forever?
Yeah, exactly.
No, we're in the last days. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And this is where if Christians to start praying and believing God for our leaders, our nation, for business, for good things to happen in our nation. We've still got lots of assets in this nation that could be used in a good way.
Yeah.
But, well, we'll have to wait and see what they do.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
But ultimately, one world government is on the horizon. Now, where does one world government really end up? Europe. There is no doubt. And
so they call it a Babylonian system in the Bible, but it's representing a system like the old Babylon, isn't it?
Yeah. It's got to be the nations of Europe that form the EU.
Yeah. Or whatever they call it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, England's been, they've got out. and they'll pay the price for getting out, and it's hard for them. But I'd rather get out than be in if they're going to become the one.
Right.
And, you know, we've got churches in Czech Republic, Hungary and that was started, you know, when the Berlin Wall went down.
Yeah, right.
And I speak to those pastors, they're all on lockdown.
Yes.
There's no church.
Yeah.
They can't have church.
Yeah.
So they've just got house groups going where they can and doing the best they can. And I said to one of them the other day, look, man, when this all lifts for you again, if you can't get back into what you're doing, come to Australia. We'll use you here. They're good men, good pastors that have.
Yes.
They were students when I met them years ago when the Berlin Wall went down.
It's amazing.
And yeah. But you see,
so they see it a bit more over there. From
very
from
much
their
so.
point of view, they get a little, they're on the ground a little bit more.
Look,
yeah.
they've seen a lot of people die with the virus. They've seen the economy collapse, basically. They're almost living in poverty. You know, it's very, very difficult. And we've never faced that in this nation. But I think things are going to tighten here.
We saw a new study, actually. My brother was saying about a study that he saw that the same indicators that just before Venezuela went down, so I didn't realise Venezuela were richer than China and all these other things. Before they went down, the same indicators are starting to come upon the Western world.
Very much so.
It's really interesting.
See, God's not going to leave America, England, New Zealand, parts of South Africa, Australia, you know, to be no, everything's coming down. And there's a change in policies, politics, everything.
You've seen Venezuela too, how that is over
yeah,
there.
I've seen Venezuela very much.
And you have a great, for another time, you have a great record over there.
Well, we've seen over 300,000 people get born again in Venezuela because in America, they wouldn't let the Americans in because China, Russia, you know, those countries were the ones that had a hand on them. I got in by a miracle, and God did miracles.
Yeah.
And he did great miracles. And you know what I call a great miracle is if God tells you when you go to a nation, bring out 30 women before you preach with breast tumors and I'll heal everyone. Well, that's what God did. I've seen over 1,000 women get healed, and that's been, you know,
it's amazing.
Low.
Yeah.
We got film of it. And if God can do that, what can he do, even when everything goes bad? Because, see, over there, people are dying of starvation, everything. It's sad. And we just believe God is going to do something. I think if that country ever got the chance again, they would turn around big time. But we'll just believe God.
Okay, so we're heading towards that, but the good news is Jesus comes back.
Yeah.
And that's where we're heading now. Is that the message that you've got for the viewers today?
Yeah, it's very important, Raymond, because the only safety we have is if we are born of the Spirit of God, we've accepted Jesus Christ, He is the Messiah. Now, it'd be difficult with some people if they've never heard talk like this before, but if you could play this back and listen and check your newspapers, find out, do a little bit of research, you'll find a lot of what we're saying is what people really believe now. Christian people, that is.
Yes.
That regardless of what name we give ourselves, we've got to be born of the Spirit of God.
Yeah.
And true Christianity is like Jesus started it. What did Peter do? He started the move after Jesus went in Jerusalem, and people had to be born again. Jews. And they were. We seem to forget, you know, that the first big church was Jewish. Then came the Greeks. But it was the Jews. Wasn't the Romans.
No.
Wasn't Italians.
Yep.
It was Jews.
Yeah.
And they were born again. Now, forget all that now. It's not the name tags anymore. It's, do you believe?
New Spirit.
And you know, if you're watching this today, I want you to know right now that Jesus Christ is the answer. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Please listen. Some of you may be scoffing. Talking, oh, I don't want that stuff. Just listen a minute. What have you got to lose? If I say to you, one day you're going to die, you know that's true. We all die one day. Now, what happens then? Is that it? You believe that's it? It's all over? Fine. If you want to stick with that, stick with that. But I'm telling you, your spirit and your soul don't die. The body you live in dies. From dust it came and dust it shall return. The earth. But your spirit and soul cannot die. What happens to it? Well, if you're born again, you go to God. Your spirit goes to God. And you receive a temporary spiritual body till Jesus comes back to this earth and he brings you with it. It's called the rapture of the church. Now, if I say to you, you will live and never die, even if you don't believe in Jesus, you still live. You live in the spirit realm, but you go to a place of darkness. And I tell you, I would never want to go there. I have read it. I understand it. I don't like it. I don't like what happens to people, but that's the future. If we reject God, that's what happens. It's called hell. But let's leave that one out. Why don't you go to heaven? What have you got to lose? If there's nothing, you've lost nothing. But if what I say to you is real, you've lost everything. Because Jesus said there is no other way. Read John chapter 3. Read it for yourself in the New Testament. You'll see what I'm saying is true. The words I'm saying to you. You must be born again. Jesus is the only way. He came and paid the price. And God saw that if you and I would repent, say, yes, I'm sorry for my sins. Yes, I'm a sinner. You know you're a sinner. We all were. But Jesus has paid the price. He's got rid of the sin thing. And you're right with God by saying this simple prayer. Would you like to say this prayer with me right now? Father, I accept your word as truth, that Jesus died for me. He gave his life on that cross. And by his stripes, I am healed. Father, I thank you that I am healed and saved and have eternity now with you. I will go to heaven one day when Jesus comes or when I die. Thank you for saving me. Help me now to understand, to help my family, my friends, my brothers, my sisters, everyone. Father, I pray that many people get saved right now and accept Jesus. Please let us know if you've accepted Jesus. We'd like to give you information where you could go to a good church. We'll teach you. If you're up in Gold Coast Way, you can come and visit us. We can always direct you to a good church. God bless you for that. You'll see that God will touch you. You'll get a peace you've never known before. It will come upon you. And I'd suggest you do what somebody told me many years ago, back in the 60s. Read John's Gospel in the New Testament. Starts with, in the beginning was the Word was with God. You will see as you read that, God will talk to your heart, your spirit. You can't prove what I'm saying to you. You do it by acceptance, receiving. And if you found it wasn't true, you've lost nothing. But if you find it is true, and God touches your heart, you'll know. God bless you for watching us today.
God bless you.